Well guys, I can't believe I'm calling it this early, but FSR has already won. Nope, this isn't clickbait. Yes, this title is real, and I honestly can't believe I'm saying it. But thanks to modders, FSR is quickly making DLSS irrelevant. So let's talk about it and my experience actually using it. Hello and welcome. My name is Wolfie and you are watching GreaterThanPie. FSR is an interesting beast. You see, AMD rolled it out only a couple of months ago. In that time, modders have taken the open source code that AMD made public for everyone and have already started to implement it into games that it was never designed to be implemented into yet. Not only are they doing this, but they are doing this so quickly that the number of games that unofficially support FSR eclipse the number of games that are officially supported and are on DLSS combined. This means that technically speaking, FSR has the widest library of games available to it, and that's insane. Not only that, FSR works on multiple generations of graphics cards and GPUs that don't even belong to AMD, meaning that for the first time in a long time, some of these graphics cards are getting a serious boost. Because of that, honestly, I really wanted to get my hands on it and see how easy it is to mod into a game. And there was no place to better implement it than in VR games. You see, VR is easily one of the most challenging things to actually run on a modern PC. There are a couple of outlier games such as Cyberpunk 2077, Red Dead Redemption comes to mind as well, but those games are few and far between. No, the really challenging ones to run on most modern hardware are VR games. And thanks to the incredibly rapid growth that the Quest has brought to VR, there are a lot more users who are actually trying PC VR out for the first time and realizing that their GPU just isn't up to snuff. And I'm happy to say today, after our testing, I can definitively say that implementing FSR on your own is not only perfectly safe, but also will really help for all of those Quest users. So how does FSR work and why is it so important for VR? Well, FSR is a smart upscaler, if you will. It's a specialized piece of code that actually allows the game to be rendered at a lower resolution and then upscaled to a higher resolution. Now, in practice, this can vary greatly. In fact, there is a lot of testing on much bigger channels than my own. I'll link to Gamers Nexus and Hardware Unboxed who go in detail on a side-by-side comparison in a normal game. But this technology can easily be used to lower some of the load off of your GPU. And that is one of the things that have excited me most about the advent of this kind of software. The cool thing is though, because AMD made it open source, anything that has an open source renderer can have it implemented. And that's what the community has done. You see, for VR specifically, modders have actually opened up OpenVR, which is also open source, and is what 90% of all of the VR games are starting to use. Even games originally created on the Oculus ecosystem and on the Steam ecosystem are switching to OpenVR. Because of that, the code that runs OpenVR only needed to be adapted to FSR. And with quite literally a copy, paste, and a single file name change, I had FSR running in Beat Saber and in VR chat. Now, these two games were actually picked for testing for a very specific reason. One, Beat Saber is hands down my favorite VR game in existence. It's not hard to run, but it can lag, especially with a bunch of different types of custom maps and all sorts of effects added on. Adding in custom sabers, trick saber, and the likes can easily bog down the game. VR chat was picked as a stress test. You see, VR chat is horribly optimized, insane, and community driven, which means the variety of hardware that it's designed to run on are quite extreme. So using these two games as a variable, I modded in the code and I actually set it to the highest preset, meaning I'm only really reducing the resolution by around 10%. We tested across 2 different VR headsets as well. We used an Oculus Quest 2 and an Oculus Rift S. The Rift S behind me is actually my main daily driver headset, and this is where I was going to see the most difference. The Quest generally has a bit of a blurrier vision to begin with, and seeing minor changes is, well, it's not likely to happen. So with FSR implemented, we launched our VR games, and I used OVR to monitor our frame rates. Now with VR chat open and some more intensive worlds going, I actually noticed that the frame rate did not dip at all. Consistency is actually better for VR, and VR applications are actually designed to max out at the same frames per second as the headsets. Because the Oculus Quest 2 can actually boost higher, I used that to gauge how stable the frame rates were above 80 frames per second, which is where the Oculus Rift S sits. I'm also able to monitor VRAM usage, which is actually super important because, well, VR actually eats through VRAM quite easily. I'm happy to say with FSR running, I actually was able to keep the frame rates locked at the frame rate specific to the headset, meaning that I wasn't really seeing any lag spikes. Now there were some spikes that were created from loading, which was more of a CPU bound workload and less of a GPU bound one. And I'm happy to say, at least on the Quest, that I was able to reduce VRAM usage and GPU usage by almost half, which is absolutely insane. That being said, the Rift S did not benefit nearly as much. It only saw around a 10 to 20% reduction in GPU and VRM usage. This is probably because the Quest uses a different type of rendering where only one eye really sees an image at a given time, and it switches between them, meaning that the actual resolution of the image is much smaller. But the Rift S has a higher resolution screen that is always on. In Beat Saber, I was happy to also see that a lot of the loading issues that the game tends to have also were gone. Not only that, but it ran absolutely flawlessly. And when it came to recording, I'm happy to say that it didn't really affect things too negatively. Now, there is some blocking, like I can see it in the recording, but if you run it through the compression through YouTube, it would be pretty normal. I can see it working, so I know it's on, but I can't see it in the headset. And that's the important thing. Like in the headset, when your eyes are doing the magic that makes VR happen, it's not obvious. And that to me is the craziest part. But there's also more to this. You see, while we have been talking about specifically OpenVR and the many applications that do run it, OpenVR is actually implemented into both Unity and Unreal. And also, as crazy as it sounds, this code has also been implemented into Gamebryo. If you don't know what Gamebryo is, I don't blame you. It means you haven't had to try to create a mod for Skyrim or Fallout. But Skyrim and Fallout on VR related systems sucks because, well, frame rates are difficult. There's a laundry list of problems. And I personally have been modding my Skyrim to death to try to get it to be a better VR game, and I'm pretty close. But with FSR, I've stabilized those frame rates, and it made this game that was originally really difficult to run, kind of motion sickness inducing because of that, playable on my 5700 XT. And the thing is, while on the Rift S, things are generally harder to run, with the Quest and FSR, you can get a very good experience. And it makes me truly excited about the future of this thing, because due to its open source nature, AMD doesn't have to do anything. Bethesda doesn't have to do anything. Beat Games didn't have to do anything. I really don't know what the company who created VR Chat's called. I think they're just called VR Chat. Didn't have to do anything. The code was created, it was inserted by the user, and it just worked. How flippin' crazy is that? And that is why I'm saying that FSR has won, because there's no way that DLSS can compete with the community. You see, modders are insane. They will go through extreme lengths to get something to work. And now you've given them a tool that just works. FSR is gonna be everywhere it can be. And I can't wait to see that. I honestly cannot wait. Side note, you know, since FSR is built into the renderers, do you think Valve could actually build it into Proton and make it work that way? That could actually be a really cool way for Valve to actually make the Steam Deck even more powerful than it really is, I guess. Or at least appear more powerful, because FSR really could be a game changer for that thing, especially if it's somehow done at the compatibility layer. And then, I mean, it should work because the DX12 is what's being emulated by Proton, and DX12 is the renderer. So hypothetically, Valve could actually put FSR support into games that don't actually have it, the same way that we did it with OpenVR. Crazy, right? Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed honestly playing around with this, and it is now my default. I have modded it into so many games as is now, and I just love it. It is insanely cool. I'm gonna leave some links in the description with specifically where to download it, and on there's a nice tutorial for it. If you guys want a tutorial, let me know in the comments and I will make one for you guys. But that's where we're gonna leave it today. So thank you guys again. Wolfie out.